Welcome in to Locked On Knicks. We are back with the third part of our Knicks development goals episode. We, of course, are returning our two fantastic guests. We have Benji Ritholtz, who you might know from the Strickland and Knicks Film School, and Prez, who you might know from the Strickland. Two guys that have a lot of great basketball insights, Gavin, and we have some really interesting and diverse topics to get into in this final episode.
Yeah, Alex, we talk about Cam Reddish potentially improving his finishing at the rim, and then some shooting jumps for Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, and for the team as a whole at the free throw line. That's crucial. All that and more next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen every day, whether it's on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube, where we are now. If you want to see our smiling faces every day, you can check us out on there. We appreciate you guys for making us part of your daily routine and always starting your day off with some Locked On Knicks in your cup. I am Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. He is Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And we are joined once again, as we said in the intro, by our two esteemed guests today. We have Benji Ritholtz, who you might know as at Ben Ritholtz NBA on Twitter. He writes for The Strickland and does some great film threads for Knicks Film School on Twitter. Also joined by Prez, who is a writer for The Strickland, mostly draft-focused, but also co-hosts Pod Strickland on Fridays. Another really knowledgeable dude, especially about development of players. And we are getting into the diverse topics that we already got into in the intro, so I won't hold this up any longer. Let's continue our discussion on the Knicks development going forward. Well, speaking of maybe boring regular skills, Prez, I think you're due for another one here. So your next two, I mean, you can feel free to lump them together. We've sort of touched on two of the guys. One has come up consistently, so maybe you don't even feel the need to fully dive into it. But if you want to just give your last two, because they're both shooting related, your last two skills to work on here.
Well, I only have one more. I think I did my.
Yeah. You got Julius' shooting.
Oh, did you introduce it as Julius? Yeah, I thought that just sort of came up in the conversation. I didn't know if we formally introduced it. My bad. But yeah, do your last one.
The Julius thing, like it's pretty straightforward. Like I had a rant, but you don't even need more than one sentence for Julius shooting and why it's important. My other one was RJ shooting. He's getting better. It comes and it goes. He had a second there where he was hitting a pretty solid. I think as soon as I tweeted out that like over 10 games he had shot 34% on pull-up threes and 38% on catch and shoot, he immediately just tanked. Like as soon as I tweeted that, the next couple games, his shooting just tanked. But I'm not too worried about the numbers. I like that he's getting comfortable just taking shots. Even mid-range twos, his percentage still sucks on them, but I'm happy he's shooting them. And it's the sort of thing that I also think will improve with better spacing and other threats. His usage and his shot selection is pretty tough right now, but he just needs to be able to hit pull-ups at a passable rate. He doesn't need to be amazing at them. Like Benji always tweets, he needs to be able to take one dribble and shoot if they go under a screen from three. And if you look around the league at pull-up three-point shooting numbers, sure, the best guys, take a lot of them and shoot mid-30s, 40%, whatever, on pull-ups. But really, as long as you're shooting around 32, 33%, that's enough to keep defenses honest on pull-up threes. It has to be higher on catch and shoot, but for pull-ups, that's about the number. And then for pull-up twos, I mean, that's a tough one because he's really not good at those. But just it's still important to try. You're gonna have times where you just need to do that shot or a floater. So that's an experiment that you kind of just have to let it run its course and just see how it turns out, right? He's only 21. So, kid needs to, step one is shooting and step two is making. So he's doing step one, and then hopefully he can do step two next year.
He's definitely getting him up.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I threw out the Jimmy Butler analogy earlier in the episode. And that's obviously like the comp for him a lot of times for better or worse. And he's already, like, I think right now a better 3-point shooter than Jimmy Butler is. And I've loved the way he's developed in terms of his ability to, like, relocate off of Julius's drives. I feel like that's become a lot more intuitive for him this year. And at times he's gotten to a really good rhythm is when the first few are catch and shoot. And then he starts getting into, like, his bag a little bit and going off the dribble a bit more. I think in terms of his ability to get to mid-range jumpers, I think his craft, like, in terms of, this was something we talked about even more last year with him, but in terms of snaking the pick and roll and, like, getting to that spot, I think he's good at it. I mean, to Prez's point, it's just about the shot going in. But Benji, do you think that has to be a part of his game for him to be an all-star? Like, obviously, like, he can't be a terrible shooter from mid-range, and he can't be a terrible 3-point shooter. But if he's just sort of average in those capacities, like, do you think the ceiling's still pretty high there?
If you want him to be like all-star, like semi-primary RJ Barrett that we've kind of seen flashes of here, I think he has to become a decent pull-up shooter. Yeah. Because it's really, really hard. I mean, you saw it against Memphis more. I think it was the most extreme coverage I've seen on him against Memphis. They literally went under every single pistol action. And he took maybe a couple, he missed them, and then he was like, all right, I'm just going to put my head down and get through him anyway. And that's what leads to a whole lot of block shots and some black hole situation and the stuff the bad RJ that you don't want to see. And if he's going to handle the ball a lot, then yeah, he's going to have to, unless he becomes like, like Jimmy Butler's like the one guy who's kind of survived not really being much of a shooter. And he does it through like a crazy combination of like post ups, and he becomes like he plays like a 4 more than he plays like a wing, where he's running dribble handoffs, he's screening, he's rolling, he scores in kind of a very unique way that I wouldn't. It's kind of years of craft and figuring out his game and having a team kind of built around him that allows him to do that. But if RJ is going to handle the ball and have this high a usage, I think he's going to have to become a passable pull-up shooter. It's a really important step. If he's going to be more of like, if eventually he transitions into like more of a 3rd, 4th option somewhere, and he's more of like a 3-and-D type, and I could see his career going both ways. It kind of depends on how he develops and whether these shots go in. Because at some point, some team's going to be like, well, if you're not making any of them, then you're going to have to stop taking them. We're going to take some usage away. And it could go either way, and he could have a good career either way. But what the Knicks are kind of envisioning and hoping for, and, we'll see how much money they give him, but assuming it's going to be a whole lot, you're hoping that he does develop that skill so that he can justify all the usage that they're currently giving him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's totally, I think the shooting for him is going to be, the swing factor of if he can become, like you said, the star that we want him to become, or if he just becomes a, high functioning role player, glue guy, like not like lesser Chris Middleton sort of. I don't know what, you would call the player that RJ could potentially become, without developing better, almost into like Wiggins territory, maybe, I don't know, like a solid complementary player that probably shouldn't be an all-star starter.
Whoa. Yeah, I was going to say all-star starter to you, Alex.
That probably should be an all-star starter, but might be if the right K-pop star latches onto him.
Yeah, that's all he needs. That's a big key that he should.
Even Wiggins started knocking that thing down, though.
Yeah. I mean, RJ's just got to get really big in the K-pop community. He's got many all-star starter appearances in his future. But I agree. I think that's definitely going to be a big skill for him.
All right, guys, we're going to come back and we're going to talk team-wide free throw shooting and why that's an absolutely crucial improvement for the Knicks. Maybe could have won them more games than you would think. And then we're getting into maybe the single most interesting topic of the 3 parts of this podcast, Cam Reddish and his ability to finish at the rack, how that could transform his career and turn him into someone who makes a lot more money than he currently would. But first, if you want to make some money, let's talk Bet Online. It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. And boy, Alex, I was on the BetOnline website today, and there were some odds that I just felt really, really good about. Gonzaga is a 23-point favorite over Georgia State. I'm rolling with the Bulldogs there, and if you're a Knicks fan, you might as well check that game out for Chet Holmgren because you never know. Even with the team doing a little better, maybe they'll move up a little bit. And then I like North Carolina over Marquette. I think that team has hit its stride a little bit. North Carolina is a 3-point favorite in that game. But from all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
While we're talking about shooting, I'll present my last one real quick, which isn't really, I mean, this is sort of more open-ended, and I don't even know if this needs discussion because I think everybody would just be like, of course, but I feel like it had to be said. Team free throws. It's not an individual skill, it's a team skill, but I'm putting it anyway because every single individual on the team needs to work on it, save for maybe like Quickly and Reddish. The Knicks this year have been 25th in the NBA at 74.7% from the free throw line as a team. That honestly seems high, but it's probably a little bit buoyed by some of those better guys on the team. They currently have a margin of minus 1.1 points per game, meaning, in their average of all their scores for the year, they're usually losing by 1.1 point. That's 20th in the NBA. As of right now, that places them right between the Clippers, who are at a minus 0.7 and are sitting at 36 and 34, and the Pelicans, who are a minus 1.7 that are 28 and 40, which is the same as the Knicks are right now. The Knicks have lost 6 games by 1 possession, and those could have potentially swung the other way if they made more of their free throws. There are many in particular where we go back and say, hey, they lost by 2 and they missed 10 free throws. How different could this game have been had they just made the opportunities at the line? And even, if they get those extra 6 games, that puts them at 34 and 34, I think. I mean, that puts them almost to 500. So, it could make a huge difference for them. I just ran like quick basic math, and if they were making 78% of their free throws this year instead of 74.7%, that would mean they would make 53 more free throws, which would give them 0.78 more points per game. And that would make their average margin just minus 0.3, which would put them in the company of Atlanta at plus 0.7, Charlotte at minus 0.3, and Brooklyn at minus 0.4. Those are all play-in teams. Obviously, Brooklyn has had some extenuating circumstances that have led to them being in that category, but something as simple as taking some more practice free throws could potentially have altered this Knicks season to, the point of putting them in that playoff conversation solidly, rather than where they're at now, which is 5 games out of the play-in with like 14 games left, which is probably unattainable. So it could have totally changed the course of this season. Maybe could change the course of next season too if they're able to sort that out. But Prez, you're a shot guy. You like shots. Is there a is there like a thing that you could offer to these guys to have them shoot better at the free throw line?
I don't think there's anything that applies across the roster. Dudes just gotta. Half the dudes missing aren't even bad shooters normally. That's the most annoying part of the game. It'll be like a 3-point game, and Alec Burks will be like 4 of 8 from the line for no reason. And obviously Julius has his, even last year when he was shooting well, he was not a good free throw shooter in the fourth quarter because it's all mental for him. So that remains the same this year, except it's not just the fourth quarter because he lost confidence in his shot at the top. When we were talking about Julius shooting, we mentioned, we spent a lot of time talking about his percentages, but we saw, how more than makes or misses, we spent how many tweets talking about him just passing up shots, right? Like it's the confidence. So need guys to get out of their heads and also refine the craft, right? Like guys like RJ, making them when they're supposed to miss them, missing them when they're supposed to make them. There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a great point. All right, I wanted to throw it over to Benji because Benji's last one, spoilers on Cam Reddish, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't come up for anyone else. I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't have a Cam Reddish one, because to me, like he's sort of like the ultimate guy that we're trying to get at in this type of question, because like super high ceiling, but there are all these different like little areas. Like if he just gets 10% better here, 20% better here, he goes from being like a $8-9 million a year guy to like a $20 million a year guy. So Benji, I'll throw that to you. What is the skill that Cam Reddish most needs to improve?
I chose finishing at the rim, though you could go a whole lot of directions with Cam Reddish, because he's one of these guys who like is theoretically good at everything but isn't good at anything. So other than maybe corner threes this year, which he's been solid at, and deflections, he is good at getting deflections. Although the whole defensive package kind of comes and goes, but I think with that kind of body, and he has, although I wouldn't say he's an explosive athlete, I would say he's a very good athlete. He's, he doesn't finish well enough at the rim. I mean, he's shooting 53% at the rim this year. He shot 57% last year. With him, he has this very strange tendency to not elevate at all, even though he can. So like, it's almost like when you watch layup lines, and like guys are doing like these like smooth jelly layups, if you know what I'm talking about, where like they're trying to like smooth it and like spin it off without elevating to look cool. But like Cam does it in real life, and like he tries to finish and all these, like he's trying to look as smooth as possible all the time. And it's like sometimes, man, you just gotta jump into someone and finish, or like try to dunk on somebody. And I think that kind of is holding him back from like actually being a plus finisher at the rim. And with his size and his ability, I just think he needs to be better. The shot seems to be developing, certainly from the corners. The movement threes still don't look very good to me. But okay, one step at a time. He's shown some passing chops. He hasn't gotten much opportunity to run pick and roll with the Knicks. But when he does, I think there's potential there, and I like the idea of it. But like other Knicks that we've talked about, like, you got to be able to convert on these opportunities. And it's not like, in Atlanta, it wasn't nearly as bad a spacing situation as it is in New York. Like he had space to operate, he just didn't finish. So I would like to see him improve next year on that, assuming he's with the Knicks and getting minutes, which I hope he does.
All right, guys, we are going to wrap up this 3-part podcast extravaganza talking about Obi Toppin's shooting, why that is maybe the longest held improvement I've wanted for a Knick, and also one of the most important. But first, an easy way you can improve your day every day is by incorporating Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I literally use, as I just said, every single day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I was just looking for a way to get my daily greens in an easy fashion, right? Like I'm a vegan, but it's hard for me to eat like a full thing of kale or like a ton of spinach every day. For people who are more carnivorously inclined, like I imagine that it's particularly tough, and Athletic Greens just makes that a little bit easier. It also leaves me feeling great. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things that you need to feel good. I tend to use Athletic Greens right before I work out. It gives me a little bit of a boost. I feel relaxed. I feel energized. Just a fantastic feeling going into a workout. And tons of people will take some kind of multivitamin every day to get these same nutrients. It's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. AG1 is essentially a small microhabit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself. And Athletic Greens was created when the founder of the product experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up with a complicated supplements routine to recover. It cost him $100 a day. He created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to optimize nutrition on your own. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews. It's recommended by professional athletes, trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss, and Michael Gervais. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance.
And after you've gotten your nutrition from Athletic Greens, you could definitely make sure to get some protein from Built Bars, because today's episode is also brought to you by Built Bar. And, you guys know the drill already. I talk about these things practically every day. Built Bars taste fantastic, and they're going to give you the protein that you need to recover from your workouts without all the fillers and garbage that you get from so many other protein bars, and while tasting so good that you could mistake it for a candy bar. There's really nothing like Built Bars in the protein bar space. I say this as someone who has consumed a lot of protein bars in his time, and a lot that I really had to choke down before I discovered Built Bars. And if you haven't tried them yet, you should definitely try Built Bar Puffs. They are fantastic. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy and marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat. And they're covered, as all Built Bars are, in 100% real chocolate. There's so many good flavors, too, like cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. They're going to be some of your new favorites. And the texture is just out of this world. It's like you feel so guilty, like you're eating a chocolate-covered marshmallow. But in reality, it's not going to fill you with tons of extra calories and sugar and everything else, because Built Bars have just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs. But most Built Bars have a whopping 17 grams of protein on board to help you recover after your workouts. So if you want to get some Built Bars for yourself, go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you can get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
Yeah, I mean, Prez, to Benji's point, how much of that in Cam's game do you think is a choice thing? Because he's a guy who's made it like abundantly clear he sees himself as a future star, right? And I think to him, a big part of that is like having this like elite mid-range package and like quick trigger 3-pointer. And we see, I think, the worst shots of his game, like, and maybe I'm completely off on this, but to me, like, almost come from ego. And I think, Benji, to your point, that's sort of what he's trying to do with the layups, right? Like, he's trying to look like a superstar out there, but on some level, to your point, he's 6'8", he's really long, he's super smooth. Like some of the times he split double teams, like I have to do a double take because I'm like, oh wow, like there's no one else on the Knicks who could do that. RJ Barrett, for all the athletic gifts he has, like he can't do it the same way that Cam does. So Prez, do you think some of that is just him like deciding to give some of that up for the sake of efficiency, or is it more so of like a skill development where he just genuinely hasn't really ever had to figure that out, given that in high school and college finish and he could look good and like it would work?
Well, yes and no. His shooting percentage with the Knicks is 58. And it's mostly because he's stopped taking mid-range shots. Like, it's not that complicated. He's, even if he's kind of, me and Veggie joked on Twitter that like he may or may not be able to jump over a shoebox, but like he's still 6'8" with long arms. Like, he's gonna run into some easy layups. It's just what happens when you get to the rim like he does, which he does pretty well, and you're that big. And we know he can catch and shoot 3-pointers, and I haven't checked the numbers, but I'm pretty sure his ratio of catch and shoot threes to pull up threes is up in New York compared to Atlanta. So if he can improve his finishing with the way he can get to the rim, because he has solid handle, he loses it a little bit, but he definitely has moves at least, and he's so big that like one dribble move and he can get there with that alone. Like, I have a question for you all, because one thing that I've thought about and I don't know the answer. He needs to get stronger, right? To handle a lot of this and to get more explosive. I don't know how much of that. Usually, guys come into the league very skinny and that's the low-hanging fruit. but he wasn't like a BJ. He was very skinny, but he wasn't like a BJ Boston, like rail thin like a bamboo reed or something. So he's I feel like physically he's kind of been mostly the same, but I also didn't pay that much attention to him in Atlanta. So can we get him in better shape? And maybe that's the way to go about it. I don't know.
I personally don't feel like he has to get that much bigger. I think you can get stronger without getting, like, I think he could show strength improvements, but
yeah,
it won't really show. You know what I mean? Like he won't become like super brolic and look like a lengthy Desmond Bain or something. But he'll still be like strong. We see like guys like Durant and whatever, like they are able to do enough, on the inside despite still being functionally, thin. I think that's sort of Reddish's destiny. If I was going to physically project him, like, because I don't really think that he has. I think that he actually does a really good job of drawing fouls right now and finding contact and working through it. I think he just needs to get better, maybe at the craft. More so of like, and maybe some of that comes with strength. So work, shoulder exercises and stuff like that to try to be able to really, rip your arms underneath while you're still getting fouled and still get that reverse layup or whatever. And just control of the ball, to make it more of a scoring attempt rather than an attempt with the intent of getting fouled. But I don't think he has to add too much in the strength department, to be honest. At least that's my assessment. Like, Gavin and Benji, if you guys want to like briefly comment on that. But I think he mostly just has to work on his craft. Like, I think that's going to be the biggest thing for Reddish going forward.
Yeah, I think continuing to add like lower body explosiveness is big because I think he's naturally good at that, and maybe that hasn't been a focus for him because of it. Like, I'm just thinking of like the way he's able to squeeze through gaps. Like to me that's almost like the most intriguing part of his game right now. And if he can even add a little bit more juice there, that'd be really exciting. I'll quickly get into my last one, which I think is the final one for all of us, unless I'm missing somebody. And that is maybe the most low hanging fruit out of all these, because it's sort of the improvement that Benji, I think we were talking about this when you were on the podcast like a year and a half ago, and it's still obviously very much a theme, and that is Obi Toppin's shooting. He is at 24% this year. He's coming off a game against the Brooklyn Nets where he hit 2 threes and looked pretty good. But I just think this one is so simple, right? Because it's sort of like, who is he going to be as an NBA player? I heard Tom Piccolo on the Knicks Film School podcast, and he kind of threw out Montrezl Harrell as like the ceiling for Obi, like if he doesn't develop a jumper. And even someone like Montrezl Harrell, that's going to take Obi like bulking up a bit more and like developing like a lot more strength and like a lot more ferocity around the rim. And even that guy like consistently gets played off the court in the playoffs. And like, I don't really see the future for Obi on the Knicks unless they add a lot more talent. Like, if that jumper doesn't come around, because I just think there's a very definitive cap on his game. And that sucks to say, because obviously there's some amazing stuff there, right? Like not only in transition, but we've seen this year, like his ability, like when he does get a step, like whether it's off like his quintessential fake dribble handoff move or on a short roll or something, like he's added like, it's not breaking someone down off the dribble, but like 1 or 2 dribble moves and little ball fakes, like where he can fool a guy. And I guess my question is like, all right, do we not see a lot of that because he barely plays, or because that's like, there's only so much there at this point? But Benji, I know you're an Obi enthusiast. What is your take on his whole situation in terms of his shot and just how much of that he needs to expand to ultimately be like a tenured NBA player?
Yeah, I said it on Macri's pod last time I was on there. Like I don't think he's a starter. Like I don't think he's a starting player unless he makes threes. Like you have to show me the player at his size and his defensive limitations. Even though he's a very good kind of pick and roll offensive player, a finisher, but he's not, I don't know, what's the example? He's not like massive enough as a pick and roll finisher where like that's going to be like enough of a skill to like override all the other limitations. And the fact they're going to have to build a team around him that makes sense, that could be a good starting NBA lineup. You'd have to have a stretch 5 who can protect the rim. You'd have to have really good guard play that can kind of allow him to flourish. It's just, it doesn't I don't think that really exists.
To your point earlier, it's asking a question you shouldn't have to ask.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like it's not right. So he's a bench spark, which is what he basically is now with the Knicks when things are going well. If he doesn't develop that shot to me, and he's been. It's a small-ish sample size because it doesn't take a ton of them. But I tweeted it out a few weeks ago. I think during the All-Star break, I tweeted out that if you look at like all players in the NBA who have taken 90 or more three-point attempts, he's dead last in accuracy. Now I haven't updated that maybe since he made 2 last night. It's changed, but um, you got to live with that reality. Like it is what it is right now. Like it's bad, and there's hope. He's a pretty good free throw shooter. The stroke still looks okay, but some of the misses are so bad that it scares the hell out of you. And that's been true for 2 years now, where he like airballs corner threes, and even he made a couple against the Nets, and then he hit one off the side of the backboard. So it's tricky. Like I really like Obi. I think he brings a lot to the table. I think his defense, his rebounding has surprised 2 years in. But still, like that was never going to be his game, right? It's going to be an offensive first player, and I think he's capped unless he can make you respect him from 3 and then attack closeouts a little bit. He's pretty good at that when he gets the chance, but no one's running him off the line right now, So that's kind of where I think we're at.
Prez, do you have anything to add on that before we wrap this little show up here?
Nah, just that I need Obi to shoot well next year, specifically for my prognostication purposes, because I told everybody he would shoot well, and he's been awful. So I'd really appreciate it if he shoots well, and if he shoots decently, I really think he's a mediocre three-pointer away from being a pretty ridiculous rotation scorer, like starter or not, I don't know, but like if you have to respect him, we already saw, ironically, earlier in his career when teams didn't like pay attention to him, but they kind of assumed he was passable at 3. He could remember all those baseline plays he would make, both with the ball and without the ball. Like those just went up in smoke. We haven't seen one of those in like months, and
yeah, because they're just loading up off of him. They just totally ignore him now.
Yeah, exactly. So he's so good around the rim that if he can just be a little bit of a threat, provide some spacing to his teammates, and it opens up the game for them, it opens up the game for him, and all of a sudden you're talking somebody who's, I haven't checked his points per 100 possessions right now, but I think it's in the 20s, and once you get up to like 30, you're talking John Collins territory, and he could be boring at everything else and still somebody will pay up for that. Maybe it's the Knicks, maybe it's not. So hopefully he puts in that work in the offseason, because yeah, his form doesn't look bad, but those misses are just every which way, like over the rim.
Just to throw this out there, some of his forms don't look bad. He's constantly changing it, so it's hard to pinpoint sometimes.
The Knicks have that thing that a lot of teams have in their training facilities that tracks the arc of the shot and all that stuff. I know he's like busting all the algorithms and all the formulas.
No, it probably looks like a Picasso, like the spray chart.
It's like on the lie detector test when it gets all
all types of arts.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that is a fantastic note to wrap this up on. If the Knicks aren't cowards, they'll release the Obi Toppin spray shot chart art at some point. But for my co-host Alex Wolf, and a big thank you to both of you, Benji and Prez, for sitting with us for over an hour and 20 minutes and making 2 different podcasts out of like a single tweet. I really appreciate both of you guys for doing that.
Real quick, one more joke that I just thought. You know what it would look like if they released it? In the home run derby, when they show the paths of all the different home runs, that's what it would look like.
The spray chart, right? The spray chart. Real quick, guys, do you want to, Prez, do you want to let everybody know where to find you online, and then Benji right after before we get going here?
@_Presidente on Twitter is March Madness. So Strickland, including me, will be dropping a lot of goodness for your consumption.
And Benji?
Yeah, sorry. I am at Ben.
He was thinking about the art.
I was still thinking about Obi's. At Ben Reynolds NBA, I put stuff out on the Knicks Film School feed, some threads here and there after every couple or 3 games or so. Hopefully going to have one on IQ coming out either tomorrow or Wednesday. And right for the Strickland, hopefully have some good stuff in the works coming out at some point soon. I'll always like to do that. And otherwise, I'm just tweeting stuff out all the time. If you want a clip of Julius Randle spacing out, I send one out after every game at least. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, those are always put my blood pressure up a little bit. So thanks, Benji. All right, on that happy note, we'll wrap it up there. This is Locked On Knicks. Please subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Throw us a subscription, a like, a comment on YouTube. It all helps a whole lot. But until next time, be good. Peace out.